Hey everybody, it's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is going to be a great episode because two reasons. Number one, we have a great guest, and number two, we have no Greg. So it's just me. I don't have to be a Greg Wrangler today. I am running the show 100%. We have an amazing guest who's going to talk about building an award-winning referral-based business and the challenges of working with specific clients and really building real estate into your life and running a lifestyle real estate business. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff. We have an amazing guest with us today. So if you're joining us live, just wanted to thank you real quick. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you get future episodes and you can binge on past episodes and all that good stuff. And if you want the audio version nestled right here between your ears where we belong, make sure to head on over to iTunes and Stitcher and subscribe there. So first of all, let's bring in the guest, Sue Henson from Omaha, Nebraska. Sue, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you on the show today. So for those of you that don't know, Caitlin, who's still back and in Omaha, and she does, like, produces the show, essentially, books all the guests and does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, she came across the fact that you won the Omaha's Choice Award for the top realtor in the market, which is funny because I work with Jeff Cohn and he did not win, and so that's I got to email him about that and like stick it to him a little bit. But so anyway, Caitlin got a kick out of that and said, you know, she's amazing and I want to have her on the show. I said, go for it, book her, and so she did. She took care of everything. She booked you on the show, and here we are. So how is Omaha, Nebraska today?
It's good, and you know, the thing about Caitlin, she went to school with one of my sons for 12 years.
Did she really?
And so
nice.
I known her, she was in first grade.
That's
and then when
funny.
she called me, it was just absolutely delightful to hear.
That's cute. I did not know. She did not mention that. That's funny. It's such a small world sometimes. I love it. So so fill me in a little bit on like what is the award that you won and how do you think that came to be? How did you find out? How did all that stuff go down?
Well, it's through the Omaha World Herald, and it was the Omaha Choice Awards, and I was nominated in the real estate agent category. And one day the World Herald called me, and the gal who's our rep from the World Herald, she said, the minute I heard, I just couldn't wait to call you. I was so excited. And I said, are you punking me? She said no. And it was a very humbling moment.
Yeah, I'll bet. That's very, very cool. So you've got, you now have the handy-dandy banner up behind you. So for those of you that are listening to the audio version, you actually have, like, they give you a really nice plaque and a banner, and she's got that hung up on the office behind her, which is nice. I'm sure that, do you have clients come in and meet you in the office? Do they see that?
Yes, actually, and it's on my door too.
Is it? Okay. I was gonna say, I'm curious. Like, if I won that, man, I'd be maxing it out. It's got to be plastering that all over everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's get into just a little bit so people understand kind of the type of business that you run. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you've structured your business. You know, I mentioned at the top of the show that you're like you said before we went on the air, 99.9% referral based, which you've worked very hard to get your business to the point where it is that. I'm curious, how long has it been like that, where you've really been able to rely on referrals to bring in the business year after year?
Well, probably after about the first 3 years, I started getting repeat clients and referral business. But about the last couple of years, everything I do is referral. I am licensed in the state of Iowa, and so a portion of my business is referral from agents who are not licensed.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
In Iowa.
Yeah.
So that's part of my referral business as well. And then, you know, I just have come to realize that if you treat people with the utmost respect and you just do what you need to do and you're always honest at the end of the day, they're going to respect that, you know, and they're going to come back again. And I have some clients that I've bought and sold 5 houses with.
Yeah.
So, you know, that to me, that's a testimony in and of itself. Yeah. That they are loyal in that respect, because it's amazing how many times I'll get a listing and I see who sold these people the house when they bought it, and I'm surprised that stayed in contact with them.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation. We deal with that on the show a lot. Just, you know, agents are bad at following up, and that's fine. And you mentioned that you kind of put some things in place like a contact management system to help you, and we all need that because we're forgetful. I think a lot of agents count on their memory, and that's not a good idea, or they just don't plan on following up. They don't make any. They don't set aside the time to set something up to follow up with people, and so a lot of people fall through the cracks. But there was something that you mentioned there that I'd like to go deeper on if we can. You mentioned being honest, which it sounds like an easy thing to do, but when you're in the middle of a transaction and maybe you didn't proactively follow up on, so you didn't like check on something proactively, or maybe you made a genuine mistake, it's very difficult to really own up to it. I think there's a lot of people out there that that struggle with that, and maybe try to figure out a way to massage the truth a little bit and blame, maybe point out, well, it was the title, it was the lender's office, the loan officer's office, and all this stuff. And how do you translate that honesty into real life when you know you've done something that either you didn't follow up on when you could have, or you made a genuine mistake? How do you fess up to your clients so that you maintain that honesty and that transparency with them so they continue to trust you?
Well, first of all, you never do that through email or a phone call. Anytime there's something that has to be dealt with that's very difficult, it has to be dealt with in person.
Okay.
And because it's important to me for that person to understand that what I'm telling them, I'm going to own it, okay?
Yeah.
It's not that it's going to fall apart or this, that, or the other, but I'm always going to own it. And with that being said, then they'll always know that I'm in it. I'm in it all the way, and I'll fight the fight with you, and I'll even jump over the cliff with you if need be.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna point fingers and bail, because tomorrow's another day, and my business depends on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I was talking to another guy about this the other day. I've just been thinking a lot about that, like what it means to take responsibility and take ownership for something. And I feel like really successful people, they take that ownership and they take that responsibility. And if they make a mistake, or even if it wasn't a mistake, whether it was just something they took responsibility and ownership for trying to get a certain outcome and they don't reach the outcome, they immediately take ownership and responsibility and say, yeah, I screwed up. We didn't hit that goal. We didn't hit the mark. We didn't hit our target, whatever the case is. But I don't feel like they internalize it quite the same way that the average person does. I feel like they can take ownership. Really successful people take ownership and responsibility for things without it letting knock down their self-esteem, if that makes sense. Does that resonate?
Yes, and there's just, people are forgiving if you're honest, but if you try to point a finger and you try to, like you say, massage something over, and they realize at the end of the day what it really was, then they're not so forgiving, because they don't, even though things may be difficult to take in for someone, when it's all said and done, their most important piece of that was that you were honest and you owned it. Okay. And 9 times out of 10, we will get the successful end that we were after. And if we don't, I'm not bailing. I'm still going to stay with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't get this house and I have to show you 100 more, I'm going to make 10 cents instead of 20 cents, but I'm still there.
Right. Yeah. It's the commitment. Like once you're expecting them to commit to you 100%, you're giving them that 100% commitment back.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
There's some that you'll work with for a year before you ever get a $2,000 paycheck. It's pretty glamorous.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's. I met with a KW team leader out here in one of the, let's just say one of the higher up suburbs of San Diego, and he was saying the average price is about $670,000. So your average commission is somewhere in the ballpark of 17 grand. So you can sell less than a house a month and make a very, very healthy 6-figure income. So of course in that environment it's very difficult to motivate agents to do a little bit of extra work, because literally one deal a month and they're more than taken care of. So it's definitely a different culture, right? When you have that, and when the commissions are lower and you have to really put the deals through, there's much more of an incentive to follow through and follow up with people versus out here in San Diego. It's a little bit different.
Yes, I have to sell 6 houses to get that.
That's right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. All right. So there was a question that caught my eye, a couple of them actually, from the Lead Gen Scripts and Objections forum. And so Ismail Zircom asks, so which form of lead generation are you most focused on? So we talked about you being really referral focused, but I'm curious if you take me back to, you mentioned before you started getting the referrals and repeat business. I'm curious what you did to get yourself started, to get that engine running. Did you do expireds? Did you do FSBOs? And what were some of those techniques or lead generation strategies?
I actually did a lot of phone duty.
Mm-hmm.
We have, duty desk and phone duty. I took every shift that nobody wanted. I did nights and weekends, and I worked a lot of that. And
Yeah.
then I would always send out a newsletter every month to my sphere. Like to keep it on topics that are pertinent to the current real estate market. Like in the spring, what to do to get your house ready for summer, and then how to winterize it, and then or current mortgage benefits, interest rates, something that is about a 1-minute read. Okay.
Okay.
On the back side, there would always be a market stat shot
Okay.
that tells you this year over that year what the market's doing, so they just kind of get a feel for how we're doing trend-wise. And I always used to be a part of a lot of networking groups.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think BNI has like a strong presence in Nebraska, does it?
They do.
Do they?
I think the chamber has a little stronger.
Okay, gotcha. That's why maybe I didn't hear much about BNI while I was there.
Yeah, but after a while, then I even got to where I figured if I focused on my sphere, and say, for instance, I went to one of these groups once a week and had to buy a $20 lunch or whatever it was. If I focused on my sphere and took one person out to lunch every week and had a one-on-one, face-to-face, I was going to benefit exponentially higher in the end than sitting in a group and hoping somebody happens to know somebody in the next 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, so you shifted focus from the groups to your sphere and actually getting them to come out to something with you. So did you call people up and just invite them out? Was there any specific thing that you did that worked really well?
No, I would just, coffee, lunch, dinner, whichever works. Some of them like happy hour.
Right.
Those have turned into my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just pretty much let them lead the bus when it comes to whatever you want to do. I want to show my appreciation, and I just want to treat you.
Yeah. So did in a conversation like that, when you're meeting up, are you really just focusing on them and having a strictly personal conversation and letting the chips fall where they may, or did you do anything specific to encourage referrals?
Well, at some point, they'll always ask me how my business is.
Yeah.
And so that takes us into the conversation of if you know anybody,
Right.
and inevitably, I think the statistic is that everybody knows at least 2 to 5 people a year that move, they buy or sell. So, and even the vendors that I work with, I don't want all your referrals, but I use you consistently because you do a good job for my clients. And if you could just like throw me one a year,
Yeah.
So if I just reach enough people with bits and pieces, at the end of the year, I have a pretty good situation.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, I think people are. I was just talking about this with this team leader the other day. I was talking about how everybody wants. He'd just come back from a real estate conference, and he has agents stopping in his office, like, "Hey, what'd you find out at the conference? Like, what is it like? And he's like, what they're looking for is the next magic pill. And he actually keeps an empty pill bottle in his desk, so he'll take out the empty pill bottle and toss it to him. He's like, "Oh, just gave away my last one." A great little bit if you manage agents. But yeah, so he was talking about just the fact that agents are always looking for that magic pill, and it's the same way in the circles that I run in, where the agents are very focused on scalable lead generation and marketing and all that stuff. And all that stuff is great. It's fine. I love that, but at the end of the day, it's still about developing real relationships with people. And a lot of times, all the marketing and all the lead generation stuff, it really is just to get someone's attention, and then to give them a way to kind of interact with you or consume your content so that they start to build that relationship with you. But at some point, you have to get on the phone, you have to meet up in person, and you have to actually build a real relationship with people. And I think that's where a lot of agents stumble, is that part right there. Either you have the agents that focus exclusively on relationships and they don't do anything else, or you have the agents that want to hide behind Facebook and writing some blogs and things like that, and they never get out there and meet anyone. So it's that. I feel like it's the balance of the two that will make you the most successful, right?
It is the balance of the two. And you know, you were saying about our business being relational. Someone said to me not too long ago, everything you need to know in real estate you learned when you were in kindergarten. You know, be courteous, do your manners, don't hit, clean up your mess, take care of business, you know. And when you think about it, it is very, very simple. But a lot of people just try to make it very complex. And it's, you always have to treat people like you would want them to treat you if you were on the other side. And to best serve our clients, we just can never stop learning. We always have to stay with what's current in the market, whether it be title, mortgage, real estate, you know, houses, trends. We just have to make sure that we keep ourselves educated so we can keep them educated. So when they make that decision, they're making it based off their own knowledge and not mine.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's we've talked about on the show before. You never want to have to push somebody into a deal, because then as soon as something goes wrong, it's and it is all your fault essentially, especially in their mind. If they feel like they've been, you know, pushed into something or making a move before they're ready, or just the type of move that you recommended versus something that they wanted to do, it puts a lot of pressure on the transaction to go perfectly. Otherwise, they're immediately going to be more upset than they would be otherwise if they just came to you and said, "Hey, I want to buy a house." But there was something that I wanted to get into a little bit deeper, but I want to mention a couple of things first. So number one, for anybody that's watching, if you want Greg's favorite scripts, if you go to gregsfavoritescripts.com, you can get all of his scripts for like lead follow-up and lead generation, circle prospecting, all that good stuff, along with videos that actually show you the script, like he actually goes through the scripting and phrasing and tonality and all that stuff. So that's at gregsfavoritescripts.com. And then speaking of like all the marketing, like how to combine all the marketing stuff and the lead generation with the actual highly personal meetups and phone calls and events and all that stuff, just go to farmlikegreg.com and you can check out the whole video training course that me and Greg put together a while back that goes super, super deep, like way deeper than we can go on the podcast, into exactly how to farm, how to build up your demographic or psychographic farm, how to lead generate, you know, cold, warm, hot, outbound, inbound, all that good stuff. So it's all there, farmlikegreg.com. But so I want to go back into like the referrals, and I'm curious. So you mentioned like taking a person once a week out to lunch. Is there anything else that you do? Are you running like a specific like either client appreciation events, or do you do like quarterly meetups with a certain group of clients and try to get people kind of together in a group of people or loosely based around you? Doing anything like that?
No.
It's all one-on-one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
A lot of my clients are older.
Are they?
And so when I meet with them, it's a complete different dynamic than when you're meeting with someone who, say, is 25 and they're a first-time homeowner. And I'm actually I do attend their events when they have their housewarming parties and they have different parties and they invite me. I like to always attend those. Yeah. Out of respect and just to keep front of mind awareness with those people too. I'm going to one on Sunday actually.
Are you really? Now, what do you like to give away for closing gifts?
Well, every buyer, I have their locks redone for them as a gift, and it's amazing to me the number of people that don't think about that. It's like, do you know how many neighbors and relatives have keys to your house? Let's get this buttoned up for you.
I don't worry about it because I have a lovely he's like a schnauzer-sized mutt, so I'm perfectly safe with other people having keys to my house because I have an amazing guard dog who's about 15 whole pounds. So I'm good. All right, so that's for buyers. What's the closing gift for sellers?
Well, you know, it just depends. it's always got to be unique to who they are.
Yeah.
I don't, it truly varies, and it
Was there anything
varies
else
a
that really
lot.
stuck out? Like, is there a closing gift you remember giving somebody that stuck out because of the impact it made?
Anything that you do for someone that includes like a picture of themselves, and you frame it or put it on a canvas or something about, or make a book of memories if they're a seller, and they've been in this house a long time and it meant a lot and they raised their children type of thing, and you make like a book of memories for them, to take with them after the closing. That really has a terrific impact.
I'll bet. I've never heard anybody else say that before, but I like that idea a lot. I bet that does make a big emotional impact. I know that would be if I was moving out of a home where I raised kids or grew up with my parents or something like that. If somebody had given us that, we'd still have it. We'd still pull it out every couple of years. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
When I'm working with, and you are working with loved ones that are selling the property, you already know when you start, at some point you're going to sit there and cry with them.
Really?
That's all there is to it, because it's an emotional situation, and the closer you get toward the end, the closer it becomes real, and it's closure. And you have to be present for that. And you have to be present. You can't just be sitting there. You have to feel their pain, because it's very difficult for them.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a lot of them in real estate, but there are, like, if you follow the disc profile, there's some people that are in it for the business, and they're high D, low I. They're low interactive. They're not people. And a lot of times they end up being exclusive listing agents for that exact reason. They want to go in, they want to list the home, and they want to go back to the office and prospect and find another home to list. If that's you, like, real estate can be really good because it's less work. I think those people struggle a lot with that exact situation, like getting into a situation where the client is relying on you to be at the very least emotionally available, to at least comfort them or just be sympathetic and stuff like that, and that person is going, oh my God, get me out of here, like, this is not what I bargained for.
Stop crying.
Yes, I've actually tried to coach someone like that was in real estate, that was very, like, super high D. I just want to get in. I'm an analytics person. I come from the commercial real estate side, and now I'm dabbling in residential. I don't like all this emotional, touchy-feely stuff. I'm like, look, you go list some homes. Either do that or get back into commercial where you're dealing with just business people, because this is what people expect out of you. They want that emotional connection, right?
Yeah. And military and seniors. I mean, when you're taking a senior out of their home and they've lived there, some of them have lived there more than 40 years. And everything they ever knew, and they don't want to go to begin with. They're ticked off because they have to move, and they're looking at, so they already hate you when you walk in the door because you're going to do something that they're already mad about. And so in order to break into that and to break that shell, it's, you have to really feel it, because if you don't, you're not ever going to, you have to find something in the house or throughout the process that you can connect with everybody with. You have to have a connection of some sort. And with seniors, a lot of times that's very difficult, because all they know is that someone's selling their home and they're getting rid of all their things and they're moving them someplace where they don't want to go. And so a lot of times when I sell houses like that, those are the ones I like to keep in touch with after the fact, to go visit them and to let them know that just because you left your home doesn't mean nobody is going to go with you. You know what I mean? And sometimes the family stays very active, and other times their families are hit and miss.
That's no fun. I feel bad for them. That's not a good situation to be in, So when you try to connect with a senior who's in that situation, like, what are some of the things that you're looking for as potential points of connection?
I don't know if there's something specific. It's just you have to listen. If if I listen in every situation, I learn more than anything else I could ever do in research. Or, you know what I'm saying? None of my experience takes me as far as being able to be a good listener to every situation.
Yeah, and I'm sure just the act of that, it helps build that connection. But then you're looking for something in the words that they say, or a memory, or something that you can connect with them on to kind of build that rapport. I think it's awesome that you go back and visit them afterwards. You know, when most agents would have looked like the Roadrunner running away from Wile E. Coyote, and they'd never be seen or heard from again. But all right, so that's so we covered seniors. Let's talk about you mentioned briefly just working with military folks. What are some of the challenges, and what are the situations that you're seeing with working with military folks?
Well, one situation I had just a couple months ago, this couple, they both are in the military, and they bought this house. The powers to be, if you will, told them they were pretty settled for the next 5 years. They were at Offutt, and they bought the house in May, and the following June, they both got orders and had to leave, drop everything, and had to leave everything behind, and we're going to another country.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, you know, there's not a whole lot of profit to be made after a year in just about any situation. So again, those are the ones where, you know, you got to be grateful for their sacrifice. And in showing my gratitude, a lot of times I will barely make enough to cover my expenses.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just the minimum my broker requires me to give them.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, you know, pay out to the other agent industry levels.
Yeah.
But the only thing that ever gets affected is what I take home. Everything else stays the same. They get the 7% package. You know, I don't ever compromise what I do because it all still has my name on it.
Right.
And no one needs to know at the end of the day except me what I make.
Yeah, exactly. So not something you go out advertising, yeah.
And it's not real pretty most of the time anyway, so it's like, you do all that for that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm curious when you, because you know things are going to go wrong in the transaction, and sometimes you're dealing with a situation where no matter how well the transaction goes, they're still not going to be happy just because the transaction's happening at all. So what does that conversation look like when you're meeting with a client and you're trying to, yes, you want that commitment from them to work with you, obviously, but you're also looking to set them up with realistic expectations. How do you go about setting expectations with clients so that they kind of understand there's going to be some things in the transaction that aren't going to go so well? Like, how does that conversation go for you?
I just had one of those conversations on Monday night. And it was, you know, we're gonna get into this, and it's not going to be easy. Even if we do, I'm going to fight the fight with you. I don't want you to ever back down and settle.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you now this was a buyer though, not a seller. Right. But if you end up with this house, you're going to end up with a good house, a nice home. If not, it wasn't in the universe for you. You know, some people are just easier to work with as far as sellers. When you have a buyer, once you have a buyer that you know is completely in love with the house, they will overlook way too many things.
Yeah.
And you have to just look them in the face and tell them, I'm not going to let you make a bad choice in spite of your own self.
Mm.
It's somebody that I'm going to see every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Or every week. And once that house starts falling apart and they start going under and they're staring bankruptcy in the eye, I can't. How am I going to be there? So, you know, those are difficult because a lot of times people are saying, just help me buy the dang house. But, okay, but you have to think about when I'm seeing you every day, and I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah. So if you want to do that, unfortunately, it has to be with someone else.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing to have to say.
Yeah,
You know,
it is.
give
Well,
the
because
paycheck to the guy
you're,
next door.
yeah, because we're used to thinking that, the sales mentality, right? I mean, if there's someone willing to buy, caveat emptor, buyer beware. Like if you're gonna exchange money for something, I'm more than willing to take your money, and buyer beware. I don't think that's in keeping with the role of an advisor and a true consultant to your clients. So yeah, there's a little bit of very 70s, 80s kind of the hard charging prospecting, sell to anyone kind of mentality that has to be tempered with the empathy and wanting to do the right thing for the client, even when they may want to do the wrong thing. There's a balance there, because if you're going to build a business based on referrals, they have to feel good about the transaction 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And there's not a lot from that very hard charging prospecting approach. It's not that it's bad, because it will build your business. It just doesn't take that into consideration. Those are like second and third order kind of the results or the after effects or whatever of the sale. They just don't take that into account. So it's interesting. So tell me a little bit about how you build in like the handwritten notes. We talked about this a little bit before we actually went live. I want you to go into like what are some of the content, and how do you build it into your schedule so you actually crank these out on a reliable kind of consistent basis, and then like how soon after you meet someone are they actually receiving those from you?
Well, ideally, I will have if I'm going on a listing appointment, for instance, I have the envelope already addressed before I go.
Love it. Okay.
So then when I get back, I write the note and thank them for inviting me over to speak with them about selling their home. Whether I get the listing or not, I want them to know that I appreciate the opportunity, and it'll go in the mail. If not that day, it goes in the next day. Anybody I come into contact with on a professional level especially, I always will write them a note within the couple of days. When you ask when do I do that, a lot of times it's like at 11 o'clock or midnight at night.
It's the social media catch up on email handwriting note time. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that sometimes they'll sit here and they'll get it kind of stacked up. When I do a transaction with another agent, whether I'm on the buy side or the sell side, I always write them a note and thank them for their part in helping that transaction come to a successful closing, because I'm going to work with them at some point again, and I want them to know that whatever they did at that moment, I was grateful for, and if I get the opportunity to work with them again, it'll be a good thing.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I asked Brad Korn that question one time, and I don't know if you know Brad. He's down in Kansas City. He's a top KW guy, but so he said, yeah, he's like, after I get out of a listing appointment, I'll write them a quick note, and then I think he already has the envelope address, and if not, he'll just write it in his car, and he'll drop it in a post office box on his way back to the office. So they get it like the very next day. It's kind of funny. Yeah. But I like that. So handwritten notes are a big part of your process, in-person meetings as much as possible, and then going to events that you're invited to, housewarmings and things like that. And, so we talked about like you're not a huge fan of like you have agents kind of hold your listings open, but you don't do open houses yourself and haven't done those for quite a while. How are you like handling that with agents? Are you working with people in the office just paying them to hold the house open, or just letting them kind of do it in exchange for them taking the buyer leads?
Yeah, they take any lead that comes through. I'm more than happy to give it to them, because I do appreciate them taking the time. I pay for all the advertising. I pay for the cost of putting on the open. But whatever agent is nice enough to go and do that for me, anything they get is completely theirs, and I don't ask for a piece of that.
And just for people that are listening around the country, you briefly alluded to like what the standards are. Can you share what those are? Because they're a little bit different in Omaha than other places. I think people would be interested to hear that.
What do you mean standards?
Sorry, the commission. Like what you pay out to buyer's agent versus what the listing agent gets.
Well, generally speaking, the buying agent gets 40% of the commission, and the listing agent gets 60%. But in the case where I adjust my commission for my family, or for seniors, or repeats, or I mean, I kind of adjust it for just about everybody, it seems like, but I mean, it's okay. But the general industry standard on a buyer's agent is 2.4%.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So like around, like if you do like a 6% listing out in California or something, it's just 3 to each side. So that is something that's a little bit different. Like in Omaha, the standard of what a buyer's agent even expects to get is lower than that. So like Greg up in the Bay Area, they'll take a listing and they'll offer, they're just taking like 3 out. If they want to pay out, like if they want to take a 5% commission listing on a multi-million-dollar property, then it will drop to like 2.5 for each side. But so usually the only time you have like 2.5 for either side of the transaction. But anyway, so we talked about like referrals. We talked about military and seniors and things like that. Is there any other type of client that comes to you that is a little bit unconventional or takes some extra attention? I don't know if you want to talk about first-time homebuyers. I think would be a great example of that. So what are you doing these days for first-time homebuyers?
First-time homebuyers, they're just precious. I love them. And, honestly, I don't care if I do 20 transactions or 60. There is absolutely nothing greater than seeing the joy on the face of a first-timer on closing day when you give them that key and they know they finally have done it.
Yeah.
It's emotional, and there continues to be nothing like it. For them, it's very, very important to keep them educated and to keep them abreast of every single step throughout the process. And always let them know that there's no stupid question. I have them calling me all the time. I know this is a dumb question, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. First of all, don't ever hesitate. And not one of you is ever going to be dumb. Because if you don't ask, you don't know.
Yep.
And some things, we know because we do it every day, but how would we expect them to know?
Yeah, I like it. Do you have like, especially with first-time home buyers, during that kind of contract to close process, do you have like a schedule where you always keep them updated so that they know kind of when to expect your next communication?
I will communicate with them every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in some form. The younger ones, they're not opposed to texting.
Right.
They would almost rather have you text them than call you, because if you call them, they have to answer the phone.
Yeah. Well, and it might be at work too. Yeah, they can get a text at work and they can just answer it right from their desk. Yeah, so
Exactly.
there's a point to it. Yeah.
A lot of times I will just shoot them a quick text, let them know, okay, today is the appraisal on your new home. After so many days, it'll get back to the lender. Once they have that, they'll contact you, and then we'll go to the next step, this inspection or that inspection, or the title work, or whatever it may be. They need to know on a constant basis what's happening, so that they don't think that something's slipping through the cracks or falling apart and they're not aware.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So a piece of communication every single day, letting them know this is where we're at, and then this is what's coming up. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. Well, cool. So a couple final questions for you before we wrap up. Number one, it sounds to me like maybe no 2 days are alike, but I'm curious, at least how do you start your day? Like what does the first few hours of your workday look like? Are there certain consistent things that you do to either generate more referrals, or just how do you get things started?
Well, at the very beginning of my day at 5 a.m., I finally...
On the phone, pounding the phones, calling?
No. Yes, because then nobody answers and I just leave messages.
Well, good point. So, all right, so 5 a.m.
No, I go to the gym in the morning and get started. Then I go home, have my breakfast, and get myself ready for the day. When I come to the office in the morning, I look up the notes that I wrote the night before on what needs to be done and what needs to take place, check my emails, and that's when I like to do a lot of my updates as far as like on my listings and on my buyers, and to the title company, to the lender. Let us all get on the same page about where we are in this transaction. We need to always, and see, that's why I can work more efficient by myself if I have a good lender, a good title company, and they're all doing their piece, and we all stay on the same page and communication. As long as they all do their piece, I can do my piece.
Yeah.
You know, it's when I have to start doing all their pieces. So as long as we have that going on, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then you just have to drop a line every couple days. And is this being taken care of? Does anybody know? Has that been done? And then everybody will chime in, and it's all good. From there, I go on my appointments. I'll set up several appointments. It depends on if my appointments are in the afternoon, then some of the follow-up will be done in the evening. If my appointments are in the evening, then I have to do my follow-up in the afternoons. So, that is as diverse as the whole rest of my business. Some people call it the bumblebee syndrome, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just...
You like the variety. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I continue to love what I do, because it never gets boring.
Yeah.
Ever.
Ever. All right. So knowing what you know now, how would you start over? Let's say a 20-year-old Sue Henson, fresh out of real estate courses, wants to break in and take over the Omaha market by fire. What would you do? How would you start out?
I mean, like day before yesterday, 20-year-old Sue Henson.
That's right. Yeah, so yesterday, what did you do?
Let's see. Well, I think that what is there's two things. The most important things for new agents is to establish a sphere and a contact management system, so that year after year they continue to grow, and they're not just always kind of out there waiting for the next thing to come their way. And once you start establishing those relationships, you have to continue to nurture them.
Yeah.
And when you continue to nurture them, they continue to grow. It's just like, everything. Very important for an agent getting in the business. The other thing for new agents, don't forget to pay your taxes. No, I'm serious. It's the one thing they taught us at the beginning. The number one reason real estate agents fail in the first 3 years is because they don't pay their taxes. And they seem to forget that you're a business owner now. Nobody, our broker's not holding money in his trust account so that he can pay our taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And when the IRS comes knocking on your door, it's like, okay. So
like who are these people again? Why do they want to talk to me?
Why are they bothering me? And establish that contact management system. Very important.
Gotcha. Any favorite books or resources that you could point people to that had like a major impact on your life?
No, I have been impacted more by people than by books.
Gotcha. So who had a big impact? Was it a broker, sales trainer, something like that had kind of a major impact on you coming up?
Well, Van Deep for sure.
Yeah.
He was my first broker.
Okay.
And he, every time I went into one of his classes, I always walked out knowing something, learning something. Sometimes he kept the classes very light-hearted, and while you're sitting there, you're thinking, "What is this about?" And then when you leave, you're thinking, I guess I did learn that or this,
Yeah.
And I never stopped going to classes. We have classes here at Nebraska Realty every single month, and if I haven't taken the same class for the last 2 or 3 years, I will take it again, and inevitably I'll learn something new. I don't ever like to think that I know enough not to sign up for a handful of classes every quarter.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think all successful people have that that attitude, regardless of whether it manifests itself in books or not. But they have that attitude of continuous learning that there's no way I know enough have to keep learning. So whether you get it from people or books, or like Greg, you listen to books on audible.com, or you listen to podcasts. I know one of the things that Jeff did when he first started in real estate was just contact like 10 or 15 of the top producing agents at the time in Omaha, took them out to lunch, and just asked them. I like that's, that's definitely it's just an attitude thing.
When you ask an agent to give you their secrets, it's like asking for a recipe, but they leave out the main ingredient.
Which is?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Either them or they leave out something?
On what the recipe is,
That's right.
But I think that, for most successful agents, it's really a matter of internalizing what you do and what you know, and being able to communicate that to people. The worst thing you can ever do when you're talking to a potential client is let them think that you're not sure about what you're saying.
Yeah, that's true.
The minute you do that and they sense that, they're like, yeah, you're out.
Yeah. So what do you do? What's the phrase for that? Do you have like a specific, well, I don't have the answer right now, let me check on that? Is there something that you kind of fall back on when you don't know something offhand?
I make a note of it, and I tell them, I'll look at that, and we'll talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing is, I don't like to try to act like I know everything, because they know you don't know everything, and they know they're going to ask you a question that you're going to have to go somewhere else to answer. And if you give them a line, you walk away, they're like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Trust is everything. It's not just in real estate. It's in any kind of professional service. Trust is everything. Yeah. And as soon as you give them, I can't remember who said it, but as soon as, it was something to the effect of, as soon as you give them a line and they know it's not quite the truth, or they know that there's hesitancy behind it and you're not quite sure what you're talking about, you've just lost their trust. So that's that's a big point.
Second.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Well, so Sue, remind people, especially for, I can see like the most likely kind of referral scenario being the military, like relocating from somewhere else around the country, coming in to Offutt Air Force Base or anything like that. And of course, any referrals that you have coming into Omaha, we'd love for people to reach out to you that are listening and keep you in mind. So what's the easiest way to reach out to you if they do have a referral, or if they'd just like to connect and network with you?
Well, there's several ways. You can call me at 402-669-9600 or email me. I think you'll probably have my email address on the podcast. Is that right?
Yep, we'll have it
Sue
on.
at SueHensonRealty.com. Or text me.
Perfect.
Or knock on the door, come in the office and just say hi.
That's right. All right, and then I had just wanted to point out a couple of things real quick before we wrap up. So number one is gregsfavoritescripts.com. Go ahead and get that free download. And then farmlikegreg.com, where you can get our video training course on the farming that I mentioned earlier. So those two things. And then we have, who do we have coming up on the show? We have Kim Barber on the show on Monday. And then Wednesday we've got a doozy. So we're talking with Greg Harrelson out of Myrtle Beach and Matt Kavanaugh about automation and database marketing. So we're going to go super deep on Greg's Infusionsoft package and all the follow-up campaigns that he's built in. We're going to talk a little bit about how he's integrating Facebook into his automated campaigns. I mean, it's going to be a really, really interesting episode. If anybody follows me on Facebook, you've seen that we're launching a new podcast, me and Greg are, where we're talking to successful people about one book that changed their life. Greg Harrelson was the first guest on that podcast, and he shared some really incredible insights from Chet Holmes' book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. So you can check that out if you go like my Facebook page, which is Pursuing Results. So anyway, guys, go check all that stuff out. We really appreciate you watching. Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. You had some really great stuff to share, and I'm so glad that Caitlin connected us and put the two of us together on the show.
Thank you. I like that word, doozy.
That's fine. Doozy. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. All right, guys. Until then, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you all on the show next week.